Hey everyone, Sleepy Reader here. This is my grumpy old man comic book slam. I'm going to try and slam down this stack of comics I've read in the past week. We got The Flash 14. This was excellent, bringing together a lot of elements, or starting to bring together a lot of elements that have been dangling for a while. We got Turbine, we got Grodd, we got Iris, we got that other woman who's really into The Flash. I can't remember her name. Great artwork, the Rogues, everything's in here. It's really cool. Justice League Dark is kind of a drop down from the highs of the last few issues of Justice League Dark. A different artist, not a bad artist, but not kind of in the style that we're used to. And Jeff Lemire, the writer, seems to be kind of in low gear all of a sudden. I guess there's some interesting tidbits in here about the House of Mystery and about Constantine, so it makes it worth reading for someone who's already following Justice League Dark. Definitely don't jump on this issue. Hopefully things will kick back into high gear in the next issue. We'll have to see. Hopefully the artist Shannon will be back, the main artist. Vampire, on the other hand, is in high gear. This was a fantastic issue. The artist keeps getting better. Sadly, for me, he's moving over to Green Arrow. I guess I'll have to follow him there. Hopefully, whoever they get next will be a good artist, too. The plot is great with the evil Andrew Bennett and the and the sort of a new cast of characters coming together. Yeah, this issue definitely kicks butt. It only took me about 4 minutes to read, but it was very good. And I can't wait to sort of go back and read a bunch of iVampires together. It'll make great trades, too. Bedlam. Okay, Bedlam is Bedlam. It's confusion. It's getting more confusing in issue 2. I'm kind of on the fence here. I actually kind of have become more and more, a greater and greater affection for the art and this minimalist coloring style. It's got kind of the sketchy art style. The artist does a lot of interesting things, like this panel here, where the backdrop is one backdrop, but there's 3 panels of the characters walking along the sidewalk. Very cool stuff. But this is just adding more layers, more serial killers, more characters who we don't know who they are or whether they're real or not, etc. So we'll see. There's a certain also childlike logic going on here that I don't quite groove with. Like when our apparently recovering serial killer calls the police, and the police make all these kinds of connections that just seem random to me. Anyhow, talk about childlike and random. We got multiple Warheads, and this issue is harder to follow also than issue number 1. Still worth getting. It's still really nice to have this sort of different take on comics for people who love the art of comics. This is just worth checking out. It would be awful if there were 20 comics a month like this, but one comic book like this is pretty cool. So Brandon Graham has kind of claimed that space in the comic book landscape. But if you had lots of imitators, it would just get boring really quick. XMen Extreme. This is a very good issue, and things are getting a little more serious and a little more grim in the whole issues of genocide and that kind of stuff. But the writing is, I thought, really good, and the plot is rich and layered, as are the characters, I think. The weakness is kind of in the art and the coloring. The art is so-so, the coloring is muddled. Everybody looks kind of the same. And, when there's a big reveal at the end of the appearance of some new characters, I'm not quite sure who they are, but they look kind of like the characters you already had. I don't know. So, but I recommend I still recommend X-Men Extreme a lot, despite the so-so artwork. And then on the other end, brilliant artwork in this, for what I'm afraid is just a fill-in artist, but Juan Jose Ripe, who I believe is did I read he was a Filipino artist? I'm not sure. Or no, he's a Spanish artist. But we saw his art last week in Clone, and this is even better artwork by him in this issue. Sometimes the coloring's a bit dark, and you have to work a little extra to see all of his detail, but it's incredibly detailed. It feels like there's not a single mistake anywhere in this whole comic book. It reminds me a bit of, not literally, but in its kind of perfection, it reminds me of the artwork in Batwoman. And where I found this artist had a weakness with faces a little bit in Clone, here he doesn't seem to have even that weakness. So just for the art alone, this issue is a must. And it has a very interesting kind of guest Talon here, who is the son of one of the Court of the Owls, whose father turned him into a Talon. And he's got an interesting, twisted psychology. Makes me wish he would be an ongoing character in here. Maybe he's more interesting than our main Talon hero. But anyway, he's just a one-shot appearance as far as I can tell. But this is an excellent issue. And I think you can see a lot of the Scott Snyder in here, I suspect, with the relationship of the characters and the creepiness of the various relationships with the characters. It seems like all up, a really good issue, really bad, or not really bad, but not as good. This Wonder Woman is not as good as the first 12 or 13 issues of Wonder Woman. It feels like we're just moving around plot pieces, whereas in the first 12 issues, even though each issue was a continuous story, one issue to the next, each issue had kind of a certain satisfying fullness to it, which issue 13 and issue 14 have not had, unfortunately. And the art by Tony Akins doesn't seem to be his best work, although it's not terrible by any means. So definitely keep getting Wonder Woman if you are getting her, but this would not be at all a good jumping on point. And hopefully this is not a sign that the whole endeavor is going downhill a bit. Even at the level it's at now, it's still a very good book, but it's not, a 5-star book the way it was for me a few issues ago. Thor, a lot of people have been giving this 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I heard a lot of reviews before I saw it, and maybe that ruined it a little bit for me, because there weren't any big surprises when I did read it. I liked the art a lot. I thought it was too dark, the coloring, but the art is brilliant and perfect for this story. Perfect for Thor, perfect for a Thor horror story. And I'm definitely looking forward to the second issue. Writing-wise, the big problem is the only character here is Thor, so there's little for him to interact with. So we spend most of our time just reading his thoughts in all these caption boxes. All the caption boxes are actually what would have been thought balloons. And I don't think of Thor as a character who you spend a lot of time inside his head. So definitely a worthwhile series, but not quite as good as I had expected. Another one, actually, with Thor, where I think, like Talon, the art is carrying a lot of the load. And then I read 2 issues of Fables, and they are not Fables, sorry, Fairest, the spin-off from Fables, the Rapunzel arc, the beginning of the Rapunzel arc. And it was excellent. Lauren Bukes, this new-to-comics writer, she's an award-winning novelist, does a fantastic job. I think she gets how to write comics, unlike China Mieville on Dial H, which is interesting because both Lauren Bukes and China Mieville their novels have won the Arthur C. Clarke Award. But anyway, she's doing an excellent job. This is not your children's Rapunzel. There's a lot of sexual content. For an adult, it's tastefully done, mature sexual content, not just done to titillate. Again, the art is very good. The coloring at times doesn't work on the paper, especially on this rougher, more absorbent paper they use over at in these Vertigo books. But the artist was good in the first issue of this arc and got even better in the second issue when we come to Japan. She really, I assume it's a she. Her name is Inaki Miranda. But her artwork really kicks into high gear. And I think on better paper, this coloring would look a lot better. But the story is about Rapunzel going to Japan in search of her lost children. I gather children that have been lost for hundreds of years, maybe. And there she meets a former friend, former lovers, a whole Japanese world of fables, basically, which is also involved with the Yakuza. Anyway, it's a nice, layered, enjoyable plot. I highly recommend Fairest if you can pick it up starting with this issue, or perhaps pick it up in the trades later. This is issue, where do they put the number? Issue number 8. So I read 8 and 9. I think 10 is coming out very soon. And then another disappointment, Batwoman. Art, still fantastic. Story is just boring me, and I'm saying who cares? And that's been going on for 3 issues now, starting with the 0 issue, and then issue 13 and issue 14. They all have chunks of text separate from the pictures, and that isn't great, but the real problem is that there's a whole lot of not very much happening, and a whole lot of why should I care about this? I'm going to spoil it a little. At the end, we are just told, oh, everything you need to know is actually back in Gotham. So we've spent 3 issues off on a quest, in a sense, for nothing. It was a visually interesting ride. I loved the first issue in this arc, issue 12, but it's all become kind of meaningless to me, and I think I'm going to drop Batwoman. It's hard to do because of the beautiful art, so maybe I'll pick up one more issue. But I really feel like it's kind of wasting my time. And I'm getting so many comic books now, I need to cut back just because I feel one of the things I always enjoy with comics is savoring them. And having too much to read sounds like a good thing, but I always feel like I have to move on to the next comic book. So I'm looking for ways to cut back a little just so I can spend a little more time reading the comic books that I do get. Well, thanks for hanging in with me. Putting this in at a little over 13 minutes, which is hardly a real fast slam of comic books, but there you go. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.